Hello, my birdies, and welcome back to Robin's Reading Nest. If you're new here, please like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you may be updated when I post or go live here on my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on TikTok and Instagram at Robin's Reading Nest. Please take the time to go through my channel to see my previous reviews. Today's book review is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Jeneva Rose. This is the second book by Jeneva that I have read. The first one was The Perfect Marriage. Click here to see that review. I liked that book, so I had high hopes for this one. Let's get into this review and see if I was right. First off, let's get into the cover design. I think this is what pulled most people into reading this book. The nostalgia of actually going to Blockbuster or whatever your local video store was and getting that new release VHS tape. Or having that one uncle in the family that could actually afford a camcorder and they would have stacks of tapes of special moments like your cousin's graduation, your aunt's wedding, your 10th birthday party, or even the last family reunion when everyone was together. So, let me give you a quick story time. My very first job was as a video clerk in my hometown. I loved looking in the catalogs to see what new movies were coming out. I loved to put together the standees and the displays, and I liked shrink wrapping the VHS covers. At the time that I was in high school, is when I first started this job. And I used to watch MTV, BET, and VH1 faithfully. That's when these stations used to play music, and there was no love in hip hop. Now, there was the real world, but scripted, reality shows and the scripted shows they have now, that wasn't really what these networks were about. Okay, so I used to watch these shows faithfully like our parents used to watch the news. So I would also make sure to take notes of which cassettes. What? Cassettes. Can y'all believe that? I'm showing my age here. But anyway, I used to take notes of which cassettes and CDs would come out, and I would make sure to write down requests when people asked about certain artists. When the owner started seeing her sales increase, I got promoted to music clerk. I was then in charge of ordering all of the music that came in. So back when I had this job, Cash Money and No Limit Records were our biggest sellers, and then gospel and R&B. But then a rival franchise video store came to town and they started doing things like renting out DVDs and PlayStation games. They also had a group of pool tables, and for the adults there was that special room in the back. So this caused our little store to just rely on music sales, the people who still had VCRs, and believe it or not, tanning bed memberships. So after some time, our little mom and pop store couldn't keep up with the other store. DVD players started to become more popular, and the owners refused to spend more money to add DVDs to the inventory. So, in the end, that little store ended up closing and the owners retired. I started working at the rival store only to realize that I didn't like it as much as I had my previous job. I eventually quit and started working at the local grocery store. But even now, over 2 decades later, I think back to working in that little store, and I always tell everyone that that was my first and favorite job. Okay, so that's enough of that. Story time over. Let's get back to the book. So let me start off this review by giving you a summary. After their mother passes away, three estranged siblings come together to settle her estate. Beth, the eldest, has always stayed close to home, caring for their mother into her last moments, one of which is her mother saying, "Your father didn't disappear. Don't trust." Nicole, the middle child, has been kept at a distance due to her ongoing struggle with addiction, while Michael, the youngest, lives out of state in California and hasn't returned to their small Wisconsin town since their father abandoned them 7 years ago. While sorting through their mother's belongings, they discover a stash of home videos that prompts them to reminisce about better times. However, their trip down memory lane makes a dark turn when one VHS tape reveals a night that none of them remember. The label on the tape has the date 1999. The footage shows their father covered in blood, leading to the discovery of a deceased person and a pact between their parents to conceal it. The tape then abruptly cuts off. The siblings realize the body is that of Emma Harper, a little neighbor girl who went missing in 1999 and who was also the sister of Beth's then boyfriend. Faced with this shocking revelation, Beth, Nicole, and Michael must decide whether to confront the haunting secrets of their and their parents' past or leave them buried forever. So now let's meet our characters. If you are new here, this is the part of the video where I give visual representations of the characters. These images are not what the author has given, but my own interpretation from the physical descriptions in the book and the stock photography that Canva gives me. Okay, so our first character is Beth. She has been stuck in their hometown where she has a job in the local warehouse. She has a daughter whom she is estranged from. Her daughter is overseas serving in the Navy. Beth's first marriage to her daughter's father didn't work out. Because she is the oldest and most responsible child, she has become the caretaker for their mother. Beth has been emailing her father for the last 7 years, hoping that one day he will reply. Next is Nicole. She was out looking for their missing father when she was involved in a car accident. During her recovery, she was given very strong pain meds. She is now struggling with an addiction. She once had a future as a writer, but everything seems to have fallen to the wayside. She carries around a notebook where she writes poems and observations. Next is Michael. He moved to California after their father's disappearance. He has a tech job, and his life seems to be the best of the three. Gifted with a new computer and technology classes back in 1999, Michael was destined to live the life that he has. He blames Beth for her life. He feels because they were both raised in the same house, Beth had just as much of a chance to alter her life for the better. And because she didn't do that, that is on her. He looks down on Beth, but seems to want to pity and protect Nicole, who Beth has totally given up on. And finally, we have Laura Thomas, who is the mother of all three. She believes that everything she has ever done was for her kids. Protecting and providing for her children was what she and her husband were determined to do. That is, before her husband dipped out and left the family. She later refers to June 15th, 1999 as the night that everything changed, shook her faith, and made her realize monsters walk among us. She made sure to document her family's life through journals and home videos. At the age of 12, after losing both her father and her sister to a drunk driver, Laura has been big on capturing family moments. Okay, so let's dig a little deeper in the story, and let's see if I can do this with no spoilers. So you can see the animosity and the bitterness that Beth has for Michael. He shows up with his expensive rental car, expensive clothes, and expensive liquor. Beth had a promising future as a track star, but a blown out knee shattered her dreams, and now she feels as if Michael is flaunting his life in her face. Left to care for her mother financially and physically has taken its toll on Beth. In addition to that, no one knows where their father is or what happened to them. All they know is that his truck was found near the Mexico border. It seems that during that time, the entire family fell apart. It was as if their anchor was pulled up, and his disappearance caused the remaining family members to drift into lives that would have been totally different if he was still around. Even though Laura has passed, her perspective is also being told through flashbacks. If you've seen my previous reviews, you know that I say I don't like when a book goes between the past and the present or is told by multiple characters. But in this case, it was needed. Each sibling and their mother had a different reality when it came to the past. It's funny how siblings can grow up in the same household but have such different memories and futures. Even their mother Laura saw things through a different lens, figuratively and literally. To be honest, I had no idea that the story was going to end the way it did. But then again, it's Geneva Rose, so why wouldn't it? As for my final thoughts, I believe that sometimes as parents, the decisions we make for our kids are not necessarily the best. What you think is a good idea at the time could have lasting effects on your children. Gifting Michael the computer and tech classes was one example. So, with all of that being said, I gave Home is Where the Bodies 4 stars. Most people would say that Geneva Rose is not a prolific, thought provoking writer. She may not be, but you can't deny that she's entertaining. So, what are your thoughts on Home is Where the Bodies Are? What are your thoughts on Geneva Rose? Did you know that the book would end the way it did? Drop down in the comments and let me know. So, that ends today's review. I'm so glad that you decided to spend this time with me. Until we meet again, thank you for visiting Robin's Reading Nest, where birds of a feather read together.